Hi, I'm Bybreen and welcome back to another episode of Soulstone Astrology, where I give you my textured take on the world of astrology. Well, in this episode I'm going to be discussing Neptune and its retrograde that took place on the 15th of June, and it will be retrograde until the 22nd of November. But before I do that, I've got an announcement for you. I'm thinking of hosting a mini retreat teaching you astrology, teaching you how to read your charts, but also for you to create the new narrative for your life so that you can step into a more illuminated life. So I just want to kind of gather your interest really. Who would be interested in attending a retreat that I'm going to be delivering around astrology? So I haven't decided on the location. I'm based here in London, so it could be in the UK or it could be in Europe. But what I'm more interested in is having a sense of who would be interested in participating in a retreat. So I'm looking for about 15 to 20 people. So if you are interested in attending a mini retreat with me, put your kind of answers or suggestions or your yeses in the comment box below so I have a sense of who would be interested. So between now and maybe the end of June, I'll be making this mini announcement in my subsequent videos because I love teaching astrology and I love sharing it with you. So that's that. Let's now move into Neptune. And so, as I mentioned, Neptune went retrograde on the 15th of June. And we'll be there for just over 5 months. So Neptune is in Pisces, so he's in his natural home. So when we look at the symbol of Neptune, it actually is the semicircle of the soul, which also is has the cross of matter. And so when you look at the symbol, it has 3 prongs to it. You've got this crescent, and then you've got the cross, which forms these 3 prongs. And what they're indicating is this sense of, we've got body and senses, we've got mind and thought, and we've got emotions and desires. So in our lifetime, the idea is that we're able to elevate these 3 areas of our lives in a more refined way. Okay, so it's about bringing out the positive elements of Neptune. And by doing so, you're able to transcend and live a far more illuminated life. So when we think of Neptune, Neptune is the higher octave to Venus. But the difference is Venus gives her love and she expects her love to be reciprocated. So if I give you love, if I love you, you must love me. Whereas Neptune says, actually, I can give you love because by doing so, I'm shining my light into the world. And by doing so, I'm healing humanity. So actually, I'm giving a humanitarian service. So I don't need for you to return it back to me. So when we're looking at Neptune, we're stepping into this transpersonal, universal love that all of us has the capacity to give. However, this is a very high expectation that very few people can actually reach. And so therefore, in everyday charts, what it then transpires into is laziness, deception, fraud, illusion, fantasy, and escapism, where we hide behind the realities of life because we're struggling to deal with the realities of life. And so when we're looking at Neptune, Neptune is about this transcendence of self. It's about going out into the external world. But here it is retrograde. And retrograde, it's inviting you to start wiping away the psychic smog, washing away the shadow side of your personality. Because in doing so, you're able to clear the debris that has been picked up, that you've picked up from the collective by being in the external world from this humanitarian perspective. But if you're not clearing the psychic smog, if you're not clearing the debris, what happens is that you become clogged up. And if you remain clogged up, you're unable to tune into those subtle messages that are evoked from your soul. And so the journey with Neptune is, in order for you to live an illuminated life, you're moving beyond the kind of structures of the mind, because that's the ego. So the invitation here is to release and relinquish the ego, and also this futile desire to build a universe beyond and outside the laws of the universe. Because Neptune is about removing barriers and boundaries, and so we live in structured worlds, and it's about how we are able to move beyond, move behind the structure, because as a concept, Neptune is nebulous. It's this nebulous void, but it's inside this nebulous void that we're able to glimpse the higher or highest aspects of who we are, really tuning into the collective experience and what we can learn as a result of the collective experience, and how we imbibe the positivity of the collective experience, align that with our souls in order to live this illuminated life. And also that the sadness of this particular Neptune retrograde is what has happened with the Grenfell Tower inferno. Now, the inferno happened the day before Neptune went retrograde. And so another symbolism of Neptune is about leaks, it's about scandals, it's about noxious substances. And so one of the things that's been asserted is that the towers, the reason why the inferno happened was because of these gas pipes that were on the outside of the building. And then there's a suggestion that there was a gas leak, and which is very Neptunian. So it's devastating, it's heartbreaking. And, I used to work and live in Ladbroke Grove, so I know the area, I know the community. 25 years ago, I was involved in a campaigning organisation to build up the needs and articulate the desires and the wishes of underserved people. And here we are 25 years on, and the same inequalities exist. And so now that this travesty and tragedy has taken place, Neptune is showing us how structures we once relied on crumble. It's inviting us to let go. And, the direct, rightful accusation is around corporate greed. It's corporate greed. It's about political neglect. Now, there have been rights and responsibilities. There's been a fusion between rights and responsibilities. And what we've seen is really the stepping away, the abdication of responsibilities for local people. And so this transit is shining the light on what goes horribly wrong when corporate greed and neglect fuse together. And if you're looking for a brilliant articulation of a grassroots response to what's happened, just check out YouTube, check out Ishmael Blagrove, as well as Akala. So you're going to see this sense of a theme that underpins this Neptune of the powerless versus the powerful. But it's not the powerless who don't know what to do. What you're seeing is this wonderful grassroots rising up of the collective voice coming together to fight the injustices. And we saw, the images panned out around the world with the demonstrators taking their message directly to the BBC as a broadcaster and shouting, May must go. This was just wonderful for me and for people around the world in terms of seeing people reclaim their personal power. And so Neptune retrograde is an indication for you as to how you reclaim your personal power and what is it that you need to let go of in order to bring about redemption and renewal. So this reminds me of the myth of Orpheus. Now, Orpheus was a hero, he was a poet, he was a musician, and his songs would make trees weep, they would make rocks crumble, they really uplifted the souls of everyday people. So on his wedding day, he married Eurydice, and after the ceremony, she was walking around with some friends and she stepped on a snake, and bitten by a snake, poisoned, and she died. Obviously, Orpheus was distressed about all of this and couldn't accept her death. So what he did was he went to Hades to plead with him, to negotiate with him, to go into the underworld to bring Eurydice back into the land of the living. So Hades granted him his wish, but on one condition, that he must lead Eurydice out of the underworld into the land of the living. But while he does this, he must not look back. So happily, Orpheus went into the underworld. He took her hand, was leading her out of the underworld. And just before he was about to step into the light, he turned around. And as he turned around, she completely dissolved right in front of him. So his hope and desire of redemption and renewal was snatched away from him. And so the question is, what made him turn around before he was about to receive his heart's desires? Now, with this Neptune retrograde, what it suggests, it highlights the areas where we lack trust. Did he mistrust that the hand he was holding was actually Eurydice, or did he think he was being deceived that it could be somebody else? With this retrograde, it's showing us or indicating to us where we mistrust, because we're on this wonderful journey called life, and we could be taken or invited or encouraged or caressed into taking a positive course of action, and that we step into, and then as we're walking into our journey, we freeze. It could be because of fear or lack of understanding or mistrust, or for the vast majority of us, we're looking for guarantees in life. There has to be certainty in life. But actually, what Neptune and the retrograde shows all of us, there's no such thing as certainty. And if you accept there's no such thing as certainty, what it then forces you to do is to rely on your instincts, on your intuition, to tune into those beautiful whisperings that are coming from your soul, because it's in those whisperings that you're then enabled to live an illuminated life. So just finishing off with this myth of Orpheus. So he was mourning, and he was mourning publicly, and during his mourning period he was actually speared to death. And so his sacrificial death actually turned into being a blessing in disguise, because he was then reunited with Eurydice. And there's something within this myth that says, once we give up looking for the answer to the problem, the solution does actually appear. So this Neptune retrograde for the next 5 months is inviting you to think about the areas in your life that you need to let go of, that you need to relinquish. Which areas of your life do you have psychic smog that needs to be cleansed and purified? If you think about the Christian tradition, and we've got Lent, and that leads up to Easter, and so there's cleansing and fasting. If you think of the Muslim tradition, you've got Ramadan, where you're fasting and you're purifying and you're praying. All of these are indications of how you can start releasing the negativity in your life in order to step into this beautifully illumined world. And once you're able to replenish yourself, you can then step back into the world and give with no conditions. So you can really return to this universal state of love that Neptune invites you to engage in. So that's it for this episode, and it brings me to the quote of the day, which is by Meister Eckhart. And what he said is that all that man has externally in multiplicity is intrinsically one. So all these different things that you have in your life that you feel are separate, and which is really Neptune saying there's no separation, everything comes together, everything is one. And which brings me to the question of the day. What good could arise in your life once it has been deconstructed? So as always, beautiful people, put your answers, your comments, your questions in the comment box below. I thank everyone who watches my episodes, who supports me on my journey. I meet my fans, and it's really weird and it's beautiful meeting people who support me on my journey and say that, you know, they love my episodes. I love sharing astrology with you. I love helping you through astrology so you live a far more heightened life. Feel free to share this episode with anyone in your network and like and subscribe to my channel. And so until then, I will see you again on the next episode, and do pay attention to the whisperings from your soul, because in that gives you the essence of your life. And so until then, I will see you again on the next episode. Bye.